All right. Well, thank you, sir and ma'am. We are going to start very soon, and we're really, really excited because we can finally move to our first panel discussion of the day, decoding the national education policy as well as the national curriculum framework for climate integration. We're very lucky that we have this climate education is mentioned both in our national policies, but it hasn't reached the classroom. So there's a lot to be done. There are a lot of gaps. So we have our esteemed speakers, our panelists, who will be on stage. So if I could invite our speakers to come onto stage. And I'll be handing it over to Aditi. Aditi will be moderating the panel and she will be introducing the session. So over to you.
Thank you, Teresa. So I'll invite my panel members. Yep. Hello, everyone. How is everybody feeling now after those two insightful sessions? Are you all charged up and ready to go for the day? Yeah? Can I have a quick show of hands? Very little. I thought all of you will be all charged up for this new session. I mean, very interesting flow of sequence because we had two people from the government talking about the policy and need for action. And now we talk about NCF and NEP. And I have a very distinguished panel. Again, we have, Professor Shimre from NCRT, Ms. Naz from Ministry of Environment and Forest. We have Nikhil, who has come all the way from Ahmedabad, and his flight was diverted. So he actually arrived at 3:30 a.m. in the morning. So, whatever is happening in Ethiopia is also affecting all of us. So again, it's Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and we'll take that philosophy a little bit in the discussion as well, in climate change discussions. And we have Jayanti from Sesame Street. And I'm definitely going to give some time to my panel members to introduce themselves and talk about their work. I wanted to show a couple of slides. I'm not sure if they are really relevant after the discussion we had. But yeah, this is what Shweta spoke about, the data from the UNICEF report. But I want your attention on something that is happening closer home. So, we have almost 54 million students in India who experienced school disruptions due to climate hazards in 2024. Now, can anyone just step in and tell me what school disruptions really mean? Would anyone like to say, like, okay, there were school disruptions, but what does it mean for education? Well, my panel members are going to talk about it, but school disruption is just not school closures. It really has a larger impact on children, right? There are school dropouts, the teacher-student relationship, they get affected. And if there are prolonged school closures, then it has an impact on the learning ability of children, right? Learning loss has been reported. Children cannot really, catch up on reading and writing. And as the Director of Education also said, we have access issues. So even if there is a school closure, not every child continues to learn. So climate change is just not about school closures or, if everybody's comfortable in Hindi, aaj school ki chutti ho gayi, let's have fun. But, it is much more than that. And why education systems should respond to it, I think it is from two lenses. One is relevance. how do you help children contextualize and understand better what is happening around them? So they are a major stakeholders, not because climate change is already happening, but they are also our future stakeholders. So that is one. And second is response. I think as the Director of Education also said, that how do we equip them with the right kind of skills, values, and mindset? And education plays a very central role to that. So these are some of the things that we will be sort of talking a bit more in detail about. What you can expect from this panel is that we will definitely be discussing how we can embed climate change more meaningfully across subjects and age groups, how we can support teachers without adding to their burden, and also understand about some of the implementation challenges that, Mr. Mishra said that we are always the first ones to have policies. But how do these policies translate into action? What does it mean if you have something written in NEP? How does it translate in the classroom? And how does that child studying in that classroom receive it? So these are some of the conversations that we are going to have. So without much ado, I'll request my panel members to quickly introduce themselves, a little bit about the work. And the guiding question that I have for all of you, maybe just respond to it in one sentence with your introduction is, how do you see India's education system acting as a first responder to climate crisis? So introduce yourself and very quick response to this question. So we'll start with Jayanti, since she's sitting very close to me.
Thank you. So I am Jayanti Prakash, Director of Education, Content and Curriculum at Sesame Workshop India. And many of you might know Sesame Workshop. We have a play-based pedagogy. We work for the children of 0 to 8 years in the ECD domain. And we really work through our Muppets. You must also know Gully Gully Sim Sim, a program that was run on Doordarshan with the lead Muppet Chumki and Elmo. And this element of fun and play-based learning flows in through all our content, be it video content or the print content that we create for children. So as in my profile, I create education frameworks. I develop all the content and curriculum that you would see on ground. And I have also a team which creatively designs those content materials and also conceptualizes. So now coming back to your question, how is India education system responding? I would really say that we are really in the initial stage of response. While we do have some policy mechanisms in place, for example, NEP and NCF, who do talk about national, the national curriculum frameworks really talks about environmental awareness and sustainability. And I would urge you to look at the learning outcomes. They really ask you to explore and discover through nature. Nature is embedded within the curriculum. Now, how that curriculum and learning outcome is demystified and executed in the schools through the teachers is really a question here. So I would really stop at that and hand over to my colleague.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Chong Shimre. I am from the Department of Education, Science and Mathematics, NCERT. My association with NCERT as well as in this field of environmental education is like almost 2 decades now. So I worked in the area of curriculum development, which includes like development of syllabus, textbooks, and other resources, and research, of course. And I also have had an opportunity to study what US does for the environmental education and climate change as part of my Fulbright fellowships. So that was an added knowledge that I gained outside of India. Coming to what exactly is going on right now in NCERT is that we have the new NCF, we are writing new textbooks for environmental education. And I think it's a very exciting time for environmental educators, because something like this is happening for the first time, that we're going to have a separate textbook, a separate subject, which will be compulsory for all in grade 10 and optional in 11 and 12. But this is something that is newly introduced, so we're all excited about it. At the same time, it's a huge challenge, because there is something for other subjects, they have a reference point that they can make something better. Like they have been writing textbooks for science, let's say for maths. So they can say that we want to write better than this. But we have nothing, no benchmark, nothing to refer to make it a better book. So it's a kind of, we're trying our best to come up with the best textbook. So that's something that we're exploring. It's going on. Hopefully, we should be able to come up with that soon. So I have seen things happen over this 20 years. Environmental education take different forms in the way it is, perceived, it is implemented, and everything else, how textbooks are written and all that. But one thing I have seen, nothing has changed, is that in the area of preparation of teachers, nothing much have changed in that area. We have written so many things in different ways. In NCF 2005, we wrote something. Now we are writing something else. But the way we prepare teachers have not changed at all. And so that's where I think all the challenges lie. And so I really see that we are taking up as, we're going to do, we're just starting with climate change education, I would say. We have never done so much in climate change education so far, but I think hopefully with this new NCF, with the new textbook that is being introduced, there is a lot of scope for climate change education, and hopefully we will be trying to do our best in this field. So thank you.
A very good morning to all of you. My name is Naz Rizvi, and I serve Government of India and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change as Director, National Museum of Natural History. This museum first started in the year 1978 in Delhi itself, and then to have its geographical reach more towards each part of India, the ministry opened its regional centers. At present, we have got 4 regional centers at Bhopal, Bhubaneswar, Savai Madhopur, and our 5th center is coming at Gangtok. The primary function of this museum is to create environmental awareness with special focus on school children or children as it is. As you said, madam, as a first responder of climate literacy, how our curriculum, I will say it is improving, because when I was a school student, there was no such subject, no such terms dealt. However, there is a lot of scope to be, and lot of work to be done. And what I feel, because this is an informal center, we are not into formal teaching, but we have direct connects with school students, colleges. What I feel, there is a lot of confusion among the teaching community itself. So even the teachers are confused with the term climate literacy, weather, global warming, and even if you keep on adding chapters in your curriculum, these things will not help to the level which is required right now. So certain things need to be supplemented, making into some kind of way of life, sustainable living and all that. We are still in, what I feel that we need to experiment a lot of things. We have to be open how we can include this. And I always feel that education, though schools, colleges are the major first responders, but education, complete education does not come only from syllabus or school. Literacy can come, but education cannot come. So it has to come from family and the parents. The society needs to be more informed, more aware, and more into action. So rest of the things we will be discussing later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. So this is Nikhil here from Ahmedabad. I'm a climate educator and policy researcher. I graduated from IIT Delhi, and I have been teaching in school from the last 7-8 years. I was a petroleum engineer earlier with GAIL India, but I transitioned to Teach for India. I work with the schools in Ahmedabad. And then after on, I realized an urgent need for climate or environmental education. And afterward, I've been working continuously as a climate educator with schools, understanding what kind of policy implication, mostly heat waves. My research has been around heat action plans. As I think the previous speaker mentioned, how the action plans are mostly copy-pasted in India, and same goes for heat action plan. I analyzed almost 130 heat action plan, and no mention of schools. Ahmedabad was the first city with a heat action plan to come on. Answering to your question about how the India's education system will address climate change, I believe that the education system right now do not look beyond teachers. हमारा बेनिफिशियरी होता है चिल्ड्रन, बच्चा होता है, उसको हम एजुकेट कर रहे हैं. हम सोचें हैं टीचर्स को बस ट्रेन कर देते हैं, करिकुलम बना लेते हैं, फ्रेमवर्क बना लेते हैं. And it's not that climate education is something new. In 1970s, we started with environmental education after when Rachel Carson's Silent Spring came in and the environmental movement started. And then this Tilgiris declaration happened in 1977. We thought of environmental literacy. And there's a very good book in 1992 by C. Roth, beautiful book on what environmental literacy is all about. And in 1987, we changed the dynamics. Oh, let's talk about sustainable education now. फिर ESD का एक बॉन में कॉन्फ्रेंस हुआ एंड वी स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग अबाउट एनवायरमेंटल एजुकेशन कि भाई एनवायरमेंटल लिटरेसी कैसे डिफाइन होगी, सस्टेनेबल लिटरेसी कैसे डिफाइन होगा. एंड आफ्टर 2009 व्हेन द क्लाइमेट चेंज स्टार्टेड पिकिंग अप, वी स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग अबाउट क्लाइमेट लिटरेसी. And at many spaces I have heard about plastic literacy, ocean literacy, marine literacy. So we are changing the goalpost as it suits as a narrative builder. If I'm an educator, I'm the decision maker, I'm a policy maker, I'll change up the narrative. But the problem is we do not look at the school ecosystem. Who's designing the schools? Who's the school leaders? We do not talk about the school leaders. So we work with mostly the budget schools, low-income community schools. And we realize that teachers are already troubled with a lot of things coming up. Their pay scales are meager amounts. In Ahmedabad, the average salary in a private school is 4,000, 6,000. And then we expect, wo climate education bhi aage kar le, mental health education bhi kar le. So the challenge which we see as an educator on the ground in Ahmedabad is that the education system has to look beyond the teacher. Rather than creating more curriculums or frameworks or training the teachers, how can the new schools which are being designed, can they be climate adapted? क्या उनमें सोलर पैनल्स आ सकते हैं, उनमें वाटर अश्योरेंस आ सकता है, जो स्कूल लीडर है उसके लिए कोई ट्रेनिंग हो सकता है, या स्कूल के अंदर जो भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर आप बिल्ड कर रहे हैं, कैन दैट बी लॉन्ग लास्टिंग फॉर अडेप्टेड टू द लोकलाइज्ड प्रॉब्लम ऑफ मे बी हीट वेव्स इन अहमदाबाद और फ्लड्स इन बॉम्बे. So this is what I think has to change in the narrative, is that we look at the holistic aspect of climate education, which UNESCO's greening curriculum framework also talks about: communities, schools, literacy, and teacher training. So if we can cover all of these, I think it can address.
Totally agree that there are too many terminologies which are being thrown at us, from environment education to climate education to education for sustainable development, and now there is greening partnership. So I think we all are a little bit guilty about that. But hopefully, in India we can drive more clarity with the NCF and NEP coming in. So I'll start the discussion with you, Ms. Rizvi, because you come from Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. And they have this flagship program, Mission Life. If you can just throw some light on that, and what does it mean for a teacher teaching climate change at the school level, or what would it mean for a student?
See, as most of the people in this room must be aware, that Mission Life, that is Lifestyle for Environment, was launched by our Prime Minister in the year 2022. And it's a social movement. What we mean to, this is a holistic approach, that it's not only the teacher, or the focus is not only any particular community or institution. It's a people movement. And the focus is, it's a very simple thing, that we need to bring changes in our lifestyle which will help these environmental issues. Now there's a portal also to encourage the public. There's a portal on which is called as Mary Life, which encourages everybody, especially students, schools, individuals, organization, government, private NGOs, to share their experiences. If they have some global practices or some good practices, some good green deeds, so that everybody is encouraged. If I see your work, I get encouraged to do. The beauty of the Lifestyle for Environment or Mission Life is, it doesn't ask for very big things to be done. There are 7 themes, as we all know, focusing on saving energy, saving water, ban of or reducing use of single plastic, doable things. And there are some 75 actions. It is not like it is not only 75, it is it can go beyond that, but to just give to people to start a kickstart, there are 75 doable actions which we can adopt in our lifestyle to help this movement. Same thing, because NMNH is a part of ministry and we are a subordinate office, and we are an informal center for learning as well as for creating awareness. What we are doing is we are trying, like for example, in many of the schools, whether it is from government schools, we go with this, we explain children. Our narrative is into a storytelling type of a thing, where we don't force children के अरे इतनी बड़ी मुसीबत आ गई है, climate change आ गई है, सब कुछ आपको करना है, हमने सब कुछ गड़बड़ कर दिया. ये एक बड़ा pessimistic approach होता है कि बच्चे पे आप बोझ डाल दीजिए. Rather than making them you have to, trigger a curiosity, a sense of responsibility. And I always say, just out of these 75 things or the 7 themes, just pick one. Try to change, bring a behavioral change in your family, in yourself first, so that way it helps. We cannot force all these things to anybody. Like for example, our earlier speakers have said that it is a mistake that our generation has done. What a child has to do with all these things, but we have to make them understand that first when we say that we are sorry for this generation, we have done the mistake, but then you have to take this flag up, bring some changes in your life which will help this planet, become a pro-planet people. And small things only can, see, if you put, what I feel, if you go, we have seen earlier, we were trying to go and give lectures. Children, after 5 minutes, I can make out that after 5 minutes, nobody was listening. So we tried with Earth Warrior in the year 2023 itself. It's for the pilot project type of a thing in which we did a workshop simultaneously with teachers and students. It was divided into 2 parts, but it was not that we were addressing only the students or the teachers. And the format was like a storytelling, playing game, and children coming up with their their own solutions. Now, if somebody says, I waste water, if he is ready to accept that I waste water while bathing, then we tell them, okay, how can you reduce? So these are the things, and mission life, there's nothing new in it. India as a country with very rich heritage and our values, but somewhere we have diverted from those things. So for general public, for every human being to be part of this movement, it is very important that they should be involved, and mission lifestyle does the same thing, ma'am.
And then a follow-up question to that, it will help our audience also, is how do you operationalize? Like, how does it get implemented at school? I thought it was loud enough. So a follow-up question is, how do you operationalize Mission Life? How does it get implemented at school level?
See, as the director of National Museum of Natural History, my direct approach is to our regional museums also. But we are coordinating with school education. For example, the program I'm talking about was possible only with the involvement of Directorate of Education, Delhi. Same way, whatever informal competitions, campaigns we are launching. Earlier, we used to write directly to school, and our reach will be limited. Because as a museum, I can reach to maybe 300, 400, 500 schools. Then we have also mechanized this thing. We thought, let us involve, as a museum, let us involve the Directorate of Education of every state, or wherever we are doing the program, to go it into a pan-India movement type of a thing. So whatever programs, whether it is online program, offline program, we are, initially when this started, we requested the ministry to give us a presentation, which will have less words and more pictures or story type of thing. With that, we circulated all along across the India with some short films also, as to what is this mission life, what are the things which is required, and why we need to focus on this. Second thing, parallelly we did was some activities. And as you know, that museum will have gallery space. So in 2023, with the help of GIZ, we created some climate literacy corners where it is a combination of panels, some games and activity to understand, and let child herself calculate like what is his not judicial use or whatever wastage of energy, water, such kind of things. Because if I tell somebody you are doing this thing, he will think throughout life this old woman has had a bad impact on environment, and now she's telling me. So the purpose of this whole program, and this is how we approach, madam, because if NMNH will do something else, education, so we have to come together and we have to see how much opportunities we can create and make, see, talking will not help. So the thing is like for example, I have learned so many chapters in my early education, I don't even remember now. But anything which was demonstrated, which was shown to me, in which I was involved, whether it was even if a small candle making session in our home science class, I remember it right now. But so many things I learned in geography, I don't remember. So this has to start. It is not only education. The whole society, somewhere in the house, in the mothers, everybody has to be involved. And we have to think of our country first, of this global earth first. And like sir said, Mishra sir said, we all know. Now everybody is aware about global change, but we all want, we all want is that somebody should initiate it. We don't want to leave our comforts. We don't want to start from our own. This habit, this behavioral change can come from a very little age. Climate literacy, science can be taught at the age of 10 to 15 to 25, but habits cannot be developed. So what I feel as an individual, that we need to change habits to bring good deeds into the society in our day-to-day life from the child. When we always consider 5 साल का बच्चा बहुत छोटा है, कुछ भी कर देगा. नहीं, आपकी learning सारी जो habits की होती हैं, I personally feel it ends by the age of 10 to 12. उसके बाद मुझे भी पता है कि भाई प्लास्टिक नहीं यूज़ करना चाहिए, पर अगर मेरी गाड़ी में ज़रा सा कुछ गंदा होगा तो मैं कहूँगी अच्छा अभी यूज़ कर लो. Because I am learning all these things beyond the age where जो behavior मेरा बन रहा था. So we need to focus on the primary education, primary age of the children.
Thank you, ma'am. I think very well said, and it reminds me of Mahatma Gandhi's very famous quote, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And I think in some way that's what we want our younger generation to be. So that's, I think, a very important and timely intervention by your team, ma'am. My next question would be to you, Professor Shimre, since we are talking about the policy and what is happening at pan-India level. If you can just help us understand what are some of the key, points in NEP and NCF, and how, schools can really relate to it, or what actions have been taken to simplify it for the school. How does it translate into the classroom?
NEP as a document, it talks a lot about environmental education, and it's very encouraging, where it mentioned also that environmental education will be taught as a separate subject, getting emphasis. Otherwise also at several other places you can see environmental education highlighted in the NEP document. Of course, we did not find climate education in NEP document, but I consider that it comes under environmental education, so it caters to that. Coming to NCF, which was prepared in the light of NEP 2020. So in the NCF, what we have is that, again, very encouraging. The document as such, Mishra ji mentioned about we write the best documents, and it's come up with the best thing. So that's so true. So it's a very good document in the sense that environmental education has been included as a cross-cutting theme of learning about and caring for the environment. I call it LACE, learning about and caring for the environment. So that will cut across all subject areas and all grades. So that is one way NCF recommends that environmental education should be implemented. As I said earlier, another way is that it has recommended that environmental education will be taught as a separate subject in grade 10, which is compulsory for all students. and it will be an optional paper in grade 11 and 12 in the name of sustainability and climate change. And so, document-wise, a lot has been said in NEP as well as in NCF 2023. So now, what do we do with this? How do we really make this policy documents, which have been written in the policy documents, how do we translate this in the classroom? So again, the channel is through teachers, right? Of course, we don't want to limit all the activities and everything to be, bound by the school. Naz is here, and Nikhil is there, and Sesame, all organizations have to work together. But since I'm from NCERT, I want to focus on the curriculum as such. And so what we're trying to do now is that we have come up with a fantastic document. So what do we do with this? So first thing is that we have to train teachers. Right now, if you look into the teacher training programs, the pre-service courses, we still do not have pedagogy of environmental education, forget about climate change education. So we are still not preparing teachers how to teach environmental education. So that is something that is still missing. So if we really want to make systematic change, then there has to be a systemic change, and that starts with the pre-service courses. But we cannot wait for the system to change, and that is beyond the purview of NCERT's work, and so we have no control over that. We can only say that it is important, so we stop at that. And because NCT is the organization that looks into the teacher education part, and the UGC is the one who is going to introduce this in all colleges. So now, given that circumstance, so what do we do? So NCERT has this, I'm sure you must be familiar with something called a program that NCERT ran and is still running online, NIShtha, National Initiatives for School Heads and Teachers Holistic Advancement. So this was a massive, massive program where we tried to train teachers in all subject areas, not just teachers, school heads. We have been talking about things have to move beyond classroom, and to let things happen beyond classroom, to actually make things happen in the school system. The school heads have a very, very big role. Without their intervention, nothing works. And especially for something like environmental education or environmental issues, things cannot be solved within the four walls of the classroom. So school heads' responsibility is the community people, it's there. So this massive training program that we did in 2019 and into 2020 as well, then COVID came, and so we converted into an online course. But through that program, we train lakhs and lakhs. The PIB website shows that we train in 2019 and 20, we trained around 18 lakh teachers. So it was directly as well as indirectly, face-to-face. We used to go and train the state resource groups, the key resource persons, and key resource persons from different states. They train their own teachers. So that was a cascade model that we followed. But we were able to reach out to a huge number of teachers. So, and similarly, now with the new textbooks, you must be aware that we have already come up with the 6, 7, 8 science textbooks, maths textbooks, and all subjects up to grade 8. So new textbooks are already here, and now we are trying to do something similar to that, because since we do not have a pre-service course running, and already teachers who are already teaching right now in the profession, how do we train them? So we are preparing a training module similar, NIShtha training module again, based on the new NCF, based on the new textbooks. And so that is something that we are trying to do. And in that, a lot has been said, I will go one step beyond what have been said. So teaching alone, knowing alone is not going to help, because we know a lot of things, but we don't do it. So what is triggering us to take action is something else. It's beyond knowledge. So how do we reach out to that, that affective domain? So that is the biggest challenge. And I feel that we all know that teachers are already so burdened, right? We've been all saying that they have so many other things to do. We know right now SIR is going on, where many teachers are engaged as BLOs and all of that. So anything that comes up, teachers will be the first person. Okay, teachers will engage teachers. And a new program is launched, teachers are engaged. So again, the burden is there. But for me, I would still say that if climate change is such an important issue that is impacting us, that impacting teachers themselves, if they realize that, I think they might be willing to go take that extra step, extra effort to incorporate climate education in their teaching learning process. I think that's the only motivation that they can, that can help them take this thing forward. Otherwise, there's no other way to motivate them. Teachers, there's no other way, because if from left and right, they are at the receiving end. And with the new NEP, the emphasis is now again totally shifted from, earlier we used to say that, oh, teachers are just facilitators. Now it is, they're still facilitators, but teachers are facilitators. The tone have changed, so all the burden is coming back to the teachers. So with all of this, the only motivation that teachers can have is that it is an important issue, and they have a huge responsibility, and they can make a change in the students by taking this forward. So I think that this is how we have to go about. Otherwise, before it is introduced in the pre-service courses, Nishtha or programs like this, programs taken up by different organizations, that's how we have to fix the gap for now. But for systemic change is required. So I'll stop at that. Thank you.
No, thank you, ma'am. And, very important issues that you brought out, especially around, teacher burnout. I mean, we are inundating teachers with so much, and there is this pressure for learning outcomes. I mean, I've heard in places where, teachers are really penalized if the results are not great. So, then asking them to prioritize climate education is definitely a challenge. But I'm sure, like all the other challenges, we will be able to overcome this. It's a remark or a question, if you would like to respond, is when we talk about climate education, a very important aspect is climate anxiety. It's one thing to put it in content, but how do you help teachers teach climate change? Like, they should know that, okay, this is the right way to talk about climate change to a 5-year-old or to a 10-year-old. Because it might really make children very, very anxious. And instead of, taking any action, they'll be like, okay, now, I haven't created this. How do I deal with it? So, is there any conversation going on when you talk about teacher training, and, how do you equip teachers on that?
Yeah, well, let's take some statistics here, some data. Like, we have 15 lakh schools in India, around approximately 1 crore teachers. Then we have 26 crore students. So to reach out to that number, I do not know what's the best approach. I don't think there's one approach to do that. Everybody has to, come in and do that. So coming to climate anxiety, so how do we prepare teachers? Again, coming back to that. So as I said, Nishtha, we were doing Nishtha, but we were catering only to the government schools. And we have like 5 lakhs private schools. So who caters to that? How do you prepare teachers for that? So climate anxiety is something, of course, we have been talking about it. Now the discussions is, taking much stronger, in a stronger way. But for me, as such, to be very honest, I feel that we have not reached that stage to be anxious about, when we do not still believe that it is something that is really affecting us. Only when we start feeling that it is really impacting us, the seriousness is there, then we have the anxiety. But I think that we still do not have so much of, that feeling that it is really impacting me right now, already impacting. So that unless before that feeling comes, I don't think we are going to get to that anxiety stage. Of course, to the younger kids, as you said, the way teachers approach, not say it as a problem of the world that they have to solve. So that's not what we want to do. But I think more or less, anxiety we're still far away from getting to that stage. There will be stray cases of where there are instances, I'm sure there will be instances of climate anxiety, but I think we have not reached that stage to be very anxious about, because we have not really think that it's a real issue that is impacting me and you and all of us.
Thank you for that response. So, because since we are talking about climate anxiety and a lot of content, I'll come to Jayanti. I mean, Sesame Street has been developing some wonderful educational resource. I think some of us have watched them on Doordarshan. The days I was a kid, there was only Doordarshan, no other Netflix or anything like that. So, just wanted to understand about, if you can just help us, like the kind of resources that you have been developing or you are seeing, how do they help in climate integration, especially at the foundational level? And just talk a little bit about, the digital and non-digital resources as well, because, very mindful that there is a huge access challenge that we all face.
Yeah, so at Sesame Workshop, we really do have a large program on environment, which is called Mera Planet Mera Ghar. And it's been implemented in Delhi schools, and as I speak, it is being implemented in Pune and Bangalore. Now, coming back to how and what discussion has taken place in this panel, I would like to really respond and take on from there. So, when we started our environment program, we thought about, what is that which is affecting the children? Because, it is the what really impacts the children and what are the solutions that they gonna propose. This came back from our philosophy where we believed, and I really aligned with Mr. Mishra when he said adaptation and resilience is really the strategy, the pragmatic strategy to go. And we felt that, the understanding, the solutions, everything lies within the schools, community, and the children. So we surveyed around 9,000 children and we captured their voice and tried to amplify their voice. What we found out and this is one of the strategy that we adopted, that always be hyper-local in what you create or disseminate for the climate change. Which means that and Mishra ji also said, there different geographies have different challenges. My reality is different from yours. मेरे यहाँ तो flood कभी आता है, आपके यहाँ तो ज़्यादा गर्मी कभी होती है. So the content for Delhi will not work in Bangalore or Shillong. It has to be really contextualized and adopted. And this is where the children's experiences come in. And the content is a co-creation of content rather than just sitting in office and creating some kind of content. So when children said that, and we surveyed children in Bhalaswa and Narela areas of Delhi, we found out that children were highly conscious of their realities and what was affecting them. And the more, evident experiences of garbage burning came out. They said that, the garbage burning leads to the smoke which enters their houses and affects them. It also, when the air flows, the garbage enter their houses. They also talked about noise pollution and waste management. And in fact, they suggested some solutions. For example, making the community aware that garbage should not be burnt in the open, rather should be disposed in a proper way. We amplified their voices through making them meet the local influencers, local leaders, but also through social media, which through small videos, WhatsApp-based content, we amplified their voices and tried to shape the people's opinion and campaigning around it. From there, we tried to create a program, Mera Planet Mera Ghar, which later on went on to the implementation in many schools in Delhi. Now, the curriculum of this has come from children. And it is based on a play-based pedagogy. The kit that we created initially is lying on the reception at after the door, the door that leads to the table. You can see that, and we are here to explain it. The kit comprises of some very simple DIY activities, STEM-based activities to understand air pollution and what you can do about it, waste management, or biodiversity, or green energy. But most important within it is the piece related to self and environment, as to what my small actions can make a difference in the environment. And there are 3 pillars on which we base our curriculum, which is, first is the climate knowledge or awareness. Now, if you think of a very young child, let's say between 3 to 8, if you talk about big climate changes like polar ice cap melting, polar bears being extinct, this would not make sense to the child. Why? One, they have not experienced the geography. they cannot still make that connection of why the heat is increasing and the polar ice cap is melting. But what they can do is observe and explore their immediate environment. And this is where your curriculum lies. The curriculum lies within the school and the home. So what we do is focus on climate sense making rather than focusing on climate change, which would be built on later through interconnections. But first is that you focus on those aspects of environment which are present in your neighborhood, in your school. For example, biodiversity. What is the kind of habitats? Are the birds there? Are you still seeing butterflies? Or let me grow a herbal garden, which is also a part of the kit. Or how do we really compost waste? How do we segregate waste or compost waste? Now, when child is able to observe it, explore it, they also develop affinity for the environment, which means love and care for the environment. If you engage children in making a garden, a herbal garden, let's say, or composting waste, what are you trying to do? You are trying to inculcate sustainable habits, but also inculcating the love for environment. The third we move on to is developing the agency and efficacy. The child must know that his or her small actions can really make a big impact when they grow. And when we instill that from young on, we can expect the generation that is about to grow up and become citizens, productive citizens of this country, to have some changes in their actions, which can, of course, lead to a bigger change. Now, coming back to how we do it is we do have some touch points in the school, and there was a question by Miss Reddy as to how much time it will take. If you start doing something additional than what is meant to be in the school, then how do you do it? Is it really aligned to learning outcomes? And this is where we come. And I really agree with Nikhil when he said, take a holistic view. It's not just the school, it's not just the teachers, it's the parents as well, it's the community at large as well. And what role we organization have is the facilitator to build that knowledge and awareness. So within the schools, we have defined touch points. For example, in this particular program of Mera Planet Mera Ghar, we have a weekly defined touch point of 30 to 45 minutes per week. It was really started to revive the eco clubs that lie redundant in the school. And of course, there's a time that is allocated in the timetable to do those kind of activities. And the teacher is trained, or a facilitator from outside goes into the school and conduct those activities with children. We make some groups of children, for example, conservation champs or green energy champs or composting champs, and they take care of their particular responsibilities within the school. Parallelly, we amplify the messages through WhatsApp, social media like YouTube, Instagram and Facebook, and the short videos and animations and WhatsApp format content would be disseminated into the particular community that we work with and at society at large. So there is also the parents and the community bit that we cater to, but also through teachers and school. And teachers really do not need additional textbook. Everything is there. If you really think, like for example, I will take an example, birds and the bees. If we do an activity on birds and the bees, and because they are so important for environment to sustain, what we are really teaching? We are teaching pollination, which is part of science concept. Birds, habitat, what we are teaching? In environmental learning outcomes. If we tell stories, songs, watch videos. What we are trying to accomplish here, if you give your writing task or general writing about what they saw in the environment, language. So everything has a cross-cutting learning outcome that accompanies it. So in a way, this kind of initiative is cross-cuts through entire range of subjects. What teachers really need is to create those kind of climate movements or the environment movements within their subject teaching. They don't need really big chunks of content. They really need small chunks of content which they can execute. For example, a video, a storybook, which they can, help children engage and think about the environmental changes and the solutions that would come from children. Now, another main important thing that Madam also talked about is the climate anxiety. You cannot leave the children feeling hopeless because so many changes are happening. What is it for me? Am I growing up into a world which is not meant to be safe for me? You cannot. You have to instill that hope. So social emotional learning activities are really important and need to be accompanied with the climate initiatives that you do in the schools to instill those kind of hopefulness. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jayanti. I think your presentation, you spoke about all aspects of climate education, how it needs a more holistic approach and different kind of pedagogical tools. So, I'm sure there is great work and great impact being created. So I'll quickly come to Nikhil. And Nikhil, since, we are talking about the policy level, Jayanti spoke in detail about, the kind of programs that are working on ground. My question to you is, what is it that teachers need? Since you work a lot on ground and you work a lot with teachers, what is it that teachers want? What kind of support are they looking for?
Okay, so I'll share a small incident. We were working with schools in Rajasthan, okay? And I also bring out, as we approach climate education, मुझे ऐसा लगता है क्लाइमेट एजुकेशन जब ग्राउंड पे जाता है ना, बहुत जार्गनाइज स्पेस है, समझ ही नहीं आता टीचर्स को. सो माई सिस्टर इज ए टीचर. राजस्थान में बॉर्डर के पास में गांव है, पीरावाली करके. शी इज़ अ टीचर देयर, ओके. तो शी गोज 30 किलोमीटर इन बस एंड देन शी टेक स्कूटर एंड शी रीचेज द स्कूल. थोड़ा सा रिमोट में स्कूल है. एंड आई वॉज वर्किंग ऑन हीट एक्शन प्लान्स इन दिस मारवाड़ रीजन, ओके. Many of us know Marwadi community, business-minded community and all, and that instinct of entrepreneurship has something to with the climate also. I came to know because I was analyzing the literature there. तो ऐसा नहीं कि climate adaptation उस area में नहीं हुआ है, सदियों से हो रहा है. Even we found a little literature, I'll read it out to you, जो मेरी sister के through मुझे पता चला कि वो locally वहाँ लोग बोलते हैं, मक्सर बाजा ने बायरा रोहिणी तपीना जेठ. Like during the month of March and April, if the wind did not flow, and during the month of Jeth is this Hindi calendar. Maksar and Jeth are Hindi calendar names. और अगर गर्मी नहीं हुई है, बाबल बलदा बेच दे, father, the child is pleading the father, बाबल बलदा बेच दे, please sell the auction, समय बदल गयो ठेठ. The time has changed, the weather has changed or the climate has changed. So probably the instinct for local communities to adapt to these, maybe they do not know the frequency of how these climate events are happening. That might have shifted. But the local preparedness or the adaptation between the communities had stayed there. So when we start working with the teachers, so when I was working with this, my sister and her school and the nearby schools in that area, हमें realize हुआ कि rather than they wanting these workshop, जो हम लोग पहले heat preparedness का workshop करते थे climate, they were focusing on कि यार हमारे स्कूल में ना बिजली का बड़ा प्रॉब्लम रहता है गर्मियों में, कूलिंग सिस्टम्स नहीं है, राइट? तो सोलर हो सकता है क्या, या पानी का दिक्कत है तो वहाँ टांके बनते हैं पानी के, लाइक जिसमें वो पानी स्टोर करके रखते हैं गांव में, टांके. अगर आप बाड़मेर में जाओगे, रिसेंटली टीना डाबी ऑल्सो वॉन सम अवार्ड बिकॉज शी स्टार्टेड सम 75,000 टांकाज इन दैट एरिया टू कंजर्व वाटर. तो वो एरियाज में स्कूल में टांके रहते हैं क्योंकि कैनाल का पानी पहुँच नहीं पाता, वाटर वर्क्स के वाटर सप्लाईज नहीं है. तो पानी एक मेजर इशू रहता है हीट प्रिपेयर्डनेस के लिए. दूसरा है कि स्कूलों में आप सोलर लगा दो या कोई कूलिंग सिस्टम हो, पंखे तो गर्म हवा फेंकते हैं, 50 डिग्री में अगर आप कंघा चला दो तो गर्म हवा ही देगा, बच्चा वैसे ही अनकंफर्टेबल हो जाता है पढ़ने के लिए और अटेंडेंस ड्रॉप डाउन हो जाते हैं. सो देयर फोकस इज हाउ कैन दे अडेप्ट स्कूल्स कि वो जो 1.5 महीने की छुट्टियों के आगे पीछे जो अभी हीट स्पेल्स है, समर स्पेल्स का टाइम बढ़ गया है, हाउ डू वी प्रोवाइड देम विद द ऑटोनॉमी ऑफ टेक देयर डिसीजन मेकिंग. गवर्नमेंट स्कूल टीचर सोलर लगाने के लिए भी उसको 10 जगह से परमिशन लेने जाना पड़ता है. बीडीओ के पास जाओ, पहले एक फाइल दो, एक एप्लीकेशन दो, 30,000 का सोलर लगवाना है, भले ही वो अपने पैसे से लगाना चाह रहा है, पर वो डिसीजन मेकिंग ऑटोनॉमी ही नहीं है. तो आप इनोवेशन एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर सकते. भले ही हमारे पास 1 मिलियन स्कूल है, द टीचर डजंट हैव द ऑटोनॉमी ऑन द ग्राउंड. दे हैव टू आस्क द प्रिंसिपल, पहले प्रिंसिपल साहब को एक एप्लीकेशन दो, फिर ऊपर वो बीडीओ तक जाएगी, फिर उसके बाद कुछ लगेगा, कौन लगा रहा है, टेंडर कहाँ से निकलेगा. सो द प्रोसेस इज सो लॉन्ग दैट अगर अडेप्ट भी करना है ना इस समर में, तो इस समर में तो नहीं होगा अडेप्ट, अगली समर में या उससे अगली समर में होगा अडेप्टेशन, राइट. Second problem is the private schools I talk. So we work with a lot of budget primary school. I won't say the low income community schools, but budget private school. There is no mandate कि वो building कैसे बनेगा, मतलब building बनाने वाला उसका framework क्या है. एक वाइज का अवार्ड आता है, I think वाइज कतर का, which gives these climate कमल फाउंडेशन गिव, राइट. इवन हम लोग तो पार्टिसिपेट ही नहीं करते हैं, पीसा रैंकिंग में भी हम पार्टिसिपेट नहीं करते हैं, तो कोई कंपैरिजन ही नहीं है कि हम अपने सिस्टम को लिबराइज करके कंपेयर कहाँ कर रहे हैं इम्प्रूव करने के लिए. तो ये जो बजट प्राइवेट स्कूल्स हैं उनमें कोई फ्रेमवर्क नहीं है कि स्कूल की बिल्डिंग कैसे बनेगी. कुछ क्लासेस तो इतनी अंडरग्राउंड में क्लासेस चल रही हैं, आप बरसात में पानी भर जाता है, वेंटिलेशन है नहीं. तो आप हीट प्रिपेयर्डनेस की जब बात करो, इट्स नॉट दैट यू नीड रियली एक्सपेंसिव इंटरवेंशन, यू नीड वेल वेंटिलेटेड क्लासरूम, कूल रूफ्स, वाइट पेंट, जैसे हैदराबाद में वो कूल रूफ का पॉलिसी आया. तो वी नीड वेरी अफोर्डेबल, बट देयर इज नो फ्रेमवर्क, देयर इज नो रेगुलेशन. तो स्कूल कहीं पे भी बन रहा है. फिर मेरे को एक 4 माले की बिल्डिंग बन गई एक कम्युनिटी में, स्कूल खोल लेते हैं, राइट. सो आई थिंक द प्रॉब्लम इज नॉट फ्रॉम द फ्रेमवर्क साइड और देयर इज नो फ्रेमवर्क एट ऑल इन दैट एरिया. कि भी जैसे आप यूजीसी कॉलेजेस में जाता है, नैक का रेटिंग देता है, ये A+ कॉलेज है, ये माइनस है, ये B+ है, B- है. स्कूलों में ऐसा कोई रेटिंग नहीं है, कोई सर्वे नहीं होता है, कोई वीडियो आके नहीं पूछता है कि जाके भी स्कूल कैसा चल रहा है, बिल्डिंग का रेटिंग क्या है. अभी राजस्थान में एक स्कूल, 2 स्कूल गिर गए थे, अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल डाइड, किड्स, राइट. ये भी एनालिसिस नहीं होगा 30 साल पहले जो स्कूल बनी थी वो नई बिल्डिंग इवैल्यूएट कब होगी और नई कब बनेगी. सो दैट ऑटोनॉमी विद द टीचर और द डिसीजन मेकिंग विद द स्कूल लीडरशिप इज लैकिंग. व्हाट आई फील नीड्स टू बी गिवन मोर ओपनली. कैपिटल इफ दे गेट कि चलो आपको सोलर लगाने के लिए कैपिटल ऑन ग्राउंड मिल रहा है, rather than getting into this process of permission or decision making, I think things can change really drastically faster.
Thanks, Nikhil. I think a lot of decentralization and empowering teachers, and what you also brought a very important point is about learning spaces. I mean, we are talking about content, pedagogy, and training, but what about the spaces in which the teachers are teaching and the students are learning? And there is a lot of literature. If some of you are interested, you should definitely read the impact learning spaces have on learning. So with this, we come to a conclusion of this panel discussion. We open this discussion for questions. And please feel free to engage with all of us, with our panel members. Some very important points have been raised, and I assume some of you are practitioners, so you would have some questions, clarifications. Please.
Good afternoon. It was a very interesting discussion that we heard. I teach at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, the course on Bachelor of Vocational Studies in Early Childhood Center Management. And I was part of the curriculum committee. And I had to push so much to have a section on climate change and early childhood education. And I know that curriculum will go to several committees before it is finalized. But I think early childhood education is a very, very important period. As we said that behavioral habits are formed during that time, and also the kind of impact children are facing is immense. So I just wanted to add to that discussion that we are at the university level, some courses are forthcoming and thinking about these changes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Would anyone like to respond or add something to that?
What you said is my personal feeling, and this is एक कहते हैं ना एक निचोड़ होता है 24-25 साल म्यूजियम फील्ड में काम करके. Like early age is very important, and though the focus will always be on education and on teachers, but we need to reduce the burden of teachers. As a museum professional, what I can offer is, ma'am, I always feel that having chapters, having some projects, and I have seen in the last 24 years, I have seen all the more it's a private school or a bigger school, the projects it is never appropriate to the child age and its learning. I have seen people coming to our museum with the projects given by school, but the effort is that child is standing somewhere else and mother is trying to learn. I have seen shops in Delhi, in and around, where it is written, 5,000 में ये project होता है. नहीं, ये हो क्यों रहा है? Because just to standardize, glamorize our education system and our school, we are going beyond the age and the level of education that needs to be given. आप जो burden teacher पे डाल रहे हैं, जो आप summer वो देते हैं, activities देते हैं school से, उसको simple क्यों नहीं रखते हैं? I have seen कभी कभी कुछ schools में बुलाते हैं as a judge, मुझे मालूम है ये बच्चा बना ही नहीं सकता. And एक projects जो हैं बच्चों के, it costs some 30,000, because I have done a program, a national program in Delhi, in ministry, and that was on ozone some years back. And I got some calls from school saying that हमारे बच्चे को तो prize नहीं मिला, मेरा project वापस कर दीजिए. Then I said, भैया तो this is a property of NMNH now. They are saying, नहीं मैडम, हमारा तो 30 at that time, 10 years back, I'm telling you, हमने ये car use की है, ये. Why? See, it's not only syllabus, it is, and like you said, even before we come to, see, like she said, it is only 25, how many ma'am, crores you said students are there in India? 25, 26 crores students, and our population? So it's only 25% of the, even less than 25% of the whole population. So I always feel if the more words you have, it is not going to help. It was just add, and there is an anxiety. Who says there is no anxiety? I'll give you 2 examples. In 2018, if I have a time, ma'am, just would like to share experience. In 2018, ministry launched a program calling it as Harit Diwali, Swasth Diwali. And that we being the implementing agency for ministry, we went into schools and talked about Diwali and all. But we made a curriculum where we didn't start it कि भाई सबसे पहले कह दो पटाखे मत छोड़ो. दिवाली क्यों मनाई जाती है, उसका क्या इतिहास है, उसका क्या बैकग्राउंड है, हेरिटेज है, आप कैसे मनाते हो, और फिर धीरे धीरे लेके आए. And my personal experience is that when we went for students from class 5th onwards, nobody was interested in that. They will not even answer. But at the primary school, and that program was culminated into some kind of a big marathon at India Gate. All the schools who have participated, they were invited, other than that also. जब program खत्म हो रहा था तो मुझे पीछे से एक आवाज़ आई, मैम मैम मैम. अब वहाँ तो सभी मैम हैं, सारे स्कूल्स हैं, तो मैंने ध्यान नहीं दिया. और मैंने देखा एक 5-6 साल का बच्चा दौड़ता हुआ मेरे पास आया. वो हिल वुड एकेडमी से था, ये जो आपका लक्ष्मी नगर से आगे है एरिया, उसमें से. एंड ही सेड, मैडम आप मेरे स्कूल आई थी. मैंने कहा हाँ मैडम, हमने दिवाली में पटाखे नहीं जलाए, एंड ऑनेस्टी है, पर मेरे भाई ने जलाए. So this is the impact which we have at young age, whether that education or that style of how we have to live is coming from home or from school. So we need to focus, and places like national parks, museum can help reduce the burden of adding chapters, pages into the syllabus. वहाँ पर टीचर्स को हम सप्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं, उनको हेल्प कर सकते हैं. म्यूजियम्स कैन बी यूज एज अ गुड टूल, बिकॉज वहाँ पर आपके पास बहुत सारे मीडियम्स हैं, आपके पास फिल्म शो भी है, उनके पास एग्जीबिशंस भी हैं, प्रोग्राम्स भी चल रहे हैं. सो दैट वे इफ़ वी वर्क टुगेदर, एंड yes, this solution will come only from a very young age for the new generation, but then another 80% people also, whether they are housewives, working, some educators, actors, whoever is part of the society, has to change our behaviors, have to bring some changes in our lifestyle, have to become less selfish and think about the nature first. Then only there is a solution. Otherwise, just putting all burden on students and teachers or curriculum will not help. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Shweta, do we have time for or?
Short and quick. We take one last question, and I know, like, such interesting panelists. I have lots of questions for them, but very little time. So please catch them in the lunch break or after the session. Yeah? So one last question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for all of your insights. It's been absolutely wonderful hearing all of you talk. I think one of the big themes that has emerged today is that we need to, share the burden of climate action and climate education. And Nikhil, you mentioned that one of the ways to do this would be the deployment of capital in schools to build infrastructure, to increase capacity and things like that. My question to you and to the entire panel, and obviously you don't have to answer this, in too much detail, but where and how should this capital deployment occur? How do we decide what schools or what areas most need this capital and what the capital should be deployed towards?
Okay, it's a very good question that how do we decide out how the capital should flow. So for the heat waves, we did one project. Okay, for the heat waves, we did one project. Let's do a assessment of which schools are vulnerable. Okay, so we did a heat risk assessment. Okay, this was a project I did. I presented at Teachers COP also recently. So our idea was that last year when we were evaluating the heat action plan, there was no assessment कि भाई अहमदाबाद अच्छा कर रहा है या जोधपुर अच्छा कर रहा है या जयपुर अच्छा कर रहा है, कौन सी सिटी ज़्यादा वल्नरेबल है और किस पैरामीटर पे वल्नरेबल है. तो वी सॉट कि इसको ग्रैनुलर कर देते हैं क्योंकि एक ही सिटी के अंदर भी बहुत हीट आइलैंड इफेक्ट्स होते हैं, लोकलाइजेशन वाला प्रॉब्लम है. सो वी वेंट विद द आइडिया ऑफ हीट रिस्क असेसमेंट एंड वी इवेलुएटेड दैट ऑन ए स्केल ऑफ 0 to 10 which school is standing where and what kind of intervention can work out for them and what is their appetite to invest, right? कुछ स्कूल के पास कैपिटल है, कुछ के पास नहीं है. सो वी वर इवेलुएटिंग दैट. सो वी वर इवेलुएटिंग देयर रिस्क एंड देयर अडेप्टिव कैपेसिटी. So adaptive capacity in any climate adaptive capacity is decided on your purchasing power, your access to energy, your access to resources, what is the mobility the child is taking every day, कितनी दूर से बच्चे आ रहे हैं, कितनी एज ग्रुप का बच्चा है. तो इससे आपकी adaptive capacity डिसाइड होती है. रिस्क आपका डिसाइड होता है कि उस एरिया में टेम्परेचर कितना पहुंचता है, कितने नंबर ऑफ हीट वेव डेज हैं साल में, राइट, पानी का अवेलेबिलिटी कितना है. सो वी क्रिएटेड ए रिसोर्स लाइक दैट असेसमेंट एंड वी डिड इट विद 8 schools इनिशियली. तो उसमें हमारे पास कुछ हाई रिस्क स्कूल्स मिले. रिस्क सभी का हाई था पर कुछ की अडेप्टिव कैपेसिटी ज़्यादा थी. तो जिनकी अडेप्टिव कैपेसिटी ज़्यादा है तो वो ज़्यादा इजीली प्रिपेयर हो सकते हैं, या जिनके पास कैपिटल है कि सम स्कूल सर की भी हम लोग सोलर लगवा सकते हैं, हमारे पास क्लीन वाटर है. सो यू कैन एक्चुअली पुश कैपिटल टूवर्ड्स स्कूल्स विच आर एट हाई रिस्क एंड लो अडेप्टिव कैपेसिटी. जिनकी अडेप्टिव कैपेसिटी कम है, रिस्क हाई है, तो यू इन्वेस्ट इन दो स्कूल इनिशियली. So intervention, affordable intervention for heat preparedness is like that you go for cool roof, सबसे best तो, which lowers down your temperature. Then figure out ventilation areas. Third is availability of clean drinking water. Then you can also start little policies in school. School का timing क्या है? जनरली तो गवर्नमेंट खुद ही रेगुलेशन दे देता है कि 7 से 11 स्कूल होना चाहिए. बट इफ़ यू आइडेंटिफाई कि एक ऑरेंज अलर्ट आया है तो हमारी स्कूल की पॉलिसी है कि भी हम स्कूल बंद रखेंगे या हाइब्रिड टीचिंग करेंगे. तो दीज काइंड ऑफ पॉलिसीज एट ग्रैनुलर लेवल फॉर स्कूल्स कैन गो. सो दिस इज हाउ यू कैन आइडेंटिफाई विच स्कूल्स the capital should flow in. So did I answer your question to somehow? And this can be expanded further to climate risk assessment also. Climate risk हम इसलिए नहीं कर पाए क्योंकि अहमदाबाद की कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हमें हीट वेव ज़्यादा कॉन्टेक्चुअल लगा, तो हमारे लिए वो था. दूसरा, हमारे पास भी कैपेसिटी नहीं था टू, बिकॉज क्लाइमेट रिस्क असेसमेंट डिज़ाइन, हालांकि CEW ने और DST ने डिज़ाइन किया था 2021 में, दोनों की मेथोडोलॉजी बहुत ही कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी लगी मुझे. मैंने पढ़ी थी दोनों की, बट I think I was not at the right position, or we were not at the right position to design a climate risk assessment for schools. We are thinking also expanding it to public health centers गाँवों में जो हैं, कि भी उनका assessment भी होना चाहिए कि भी वो कितनी prepared हैं. So we are thinking over कि how can we approach more granular approach to risk assessment for institutions like schools, healthcare centers, community centers, and फिर capital. Rangde is this platform you must check out, which do P2P financing. तो आपके पास अगर कोई प्रोजेक्ट है, रंगदे इज़ ए ब्यूटीफुल, आई केम टू नो थ्रू आई वाज इन बैंगलोर. तो रंगदे काफ़ी ऐसे प्रोजेक्ट्स को डालता है कि भी किसी की लाइफ स्टॉल का इंश्योरेंस करना है या पैरामेट्रिक इंश्योरेंस करना है, तो वो जाके वहाँ पे कैपिटल डाल देते हैं. फिर अगर किसी को इम्पैक्ट में देना है, फिर हर कोई CSR जाके नहीं ले सकता, हर किसी के पास 12 ATG नहीं है, सेक्शन 8 कंपनी नहीं है, राइट. तो फिर वो कैसे फाइनेंस को एक्सेस करें, और बैंक्स देते नहीं हैं. छोटा कोई इंस्टीट्यूशन अगर स्कूल जाएगा तो इजीली लोन भी नहीं मिलता कि भाई हमें क्लाइमेट प्रिपेयर्डनेस के लिए लोन चाहिए, तो कोई नहीं देगा, कोई ऐसा फ्रेमवर्क भी नहीं है। हालांकि इंडिया ने अडेप्टेशन फाइनेंस का फ्रेमवर्क बनाने की बात की थी आरबीआई ने, पर उस पर कुछ हुआ नहीं है।
एक्चुअली बैंक्स जो BRSR रिपोर्टिंग है, देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड बिजनेस सस्टेनेबिलिटी रिपोर्ट व्हिच द कंपनीज हैव टू फाइल एंड बैंक्स आल्सो कम अंडर दैट पर्व्यू, सो देयर इज लॉट ऑफ focus that banks are also putting into climate finance now.
हाँ, महिला ट्रस्ट अच्छा काम कर रहा है, यू माइट चेक आउट देयर वेबसाइट ऑल्सो। वो हीट एक्शन प्लान बनाते हैं, अच्छे हीट एक्शन प्लान वही बनाते हैं। अहमदाबाद का उन्होंने बनाया है, भुवनेश्वर का उन्होंने बनाया है, जोधपुर का उन्होंने बनाया है। महिला ट्रस्ट सेवा का है, अहमदाबाद बेस्ड एनजीओ है, महिलाओं द्वारा ड्रीवन है। आई थिंक वन प्रोफेसर फ्रॉम IIM स्टार्टेड इट। सो दे आर वर्किंग ऑन पैरामीट्रिक इंश्योरेंस भी। अगर आपका घर रिस्क पे है तो आपको लोन सस्ते में मिल जाए भी, 1% 2%। अब मेरे को सोलर लगाने के लिए अगर 8% 10% लेना पड़ रहा है तो आम आदमी तो नहीं उठा पाएगा वो लोन, राइट, 1 लाख का। हालांकि गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी दे रहा है सोलर में भी इस टाइम पे 78,000 तक है 3 किलोवाट में। बट हाउ डू यू मेक श्योर कि a simple household, a women-led household, if they want solar or if they want to invest 20,000 in AC or something, how do they access the finance capital? So a lot of work has to be done on it, and a lot of work is also already going on in that aspect.
So thank you everyone. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience, being so patient. We have already passed 1 hour and still everybody is so engaged with the conversation. So yeah, I think to conclude, we'd say that yes, there are policy frameworks, and there are people responsible for doing it. But when it comes to climate change, I think it's all of us together. And it cannot be just within schools or just the teachers doing it, as parents, as siblings, as family members. I think we all need to have that conversation in our households. And just think about the messages that we are giving to our children. I mean, we keep saying, save the planet. But I think planet is very, very sturdy. The planet will survive. We need to question, who are we trying to save? Is it the humankind or is it really the planet? But I'll just leave you all with that thought. And thank you everyone for being such a wonderful panel members.
Just a second. Thank you, Aditi and the panelists, for this extremely engaging discussion. And we have a small token of appreciation, so if you could just hang back for a second.
Thank you. Yeah, of course.
All right, everyone. With that, we come to the end of the first panel discussion. I know mid-morning slump is really real, so we'll have a quick 5-minute stretch break. So if you want to grab coffee, you want to just take a walk, but please come back soon in the interest of time, because we have a very interesting panel discussion that's coming up next. So we'll start in about 5 minutes. So see you soon.